What's up, everybody? In this video, I'm going to help you figure out how to implement core values in your business. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Claudio, owner of WinRate Consulting and host of the Big Stud Podcast. As always, please subscribe to the channel and share this video with somebody that you think would benefit from it. Creating and implementing core values in your general contractor business or any business of that nature is incredibly important to create a consistent and enjoyable culture, not only for your employees, but for your customers, your vendors, your subs, everybody that's involved. In a previous video, I talked about creating your core values, and in this video, I'm gonna talk about implementing them with your team. Creating them and putting them on the wall or printing them on a piece of paper or creating a poster for it is not all that's needed. One of the rules I live by and I talk about all the time is if your employees are not annoyed and tired of hearing you talk about your core values, you're probably not talking about them enough. But here's why it's so important. As you grow your team, as you scale any business, your employees are now in a position to make the decisions that you're used to making. You have a certain filter, you have a certain perspective, a certain way you go about making decisions. Creating these core values and implementing them in your team is super important because it allows your employees to understand what filter, what decision process are they running through when they're posed with an A or B option. What's basing that decision? What's driving that decision? If you talk about your core values regularly and make it part of the culture, those core values will be what drives that decision. It's the filter at which your employees run their decisions through before making a final decision. So how do you do this? How do you get it implemented? How do you make it part of the culture? If you have one right now and you have a lot of disparity, you have a lot of inconsistencies, you have a culture that people are not super excited about because there's a lot of inconsistencies that are happening throughout the day, throughout the time period that people are there. Step one is once you have them created, I always suggest using an acronym to make it easier to talk about it. Like coach is mine. Hey, are you living up to being a coach today? People know what that means in my ecosystem. But ultimately, once you have that, you got to get your employees involved. Like it's got to be part of every team meeting. You lead with it. You have to get their buy-in when you initially create them. If it's new and your team's been around for a little while, make sure that they're a part of and enjoy the experience of creating them and getting them as part of the culture. Getting their buy-in on any decision like this is super important. Because if I just came to you and said, hey, you're going to operate this way right now, I don't care what you think, this is how you're going to do it, you're less likely to actually buy into that than saying, hey, I want to make this change and I want you to be a part of it. Now that new thing has their input on it as well and allows them to buy in and get it faster and make it implement more effectively as well. But once you have it there, you're talking about it in every team meeting. I would suggest getting the poster, getting the cards, getting I have an 8x11 I send everybody to put on their desk. Make it a part of every day, every conversation. But here's where it really comes into play. When you are correcting employees, this is really where the rubber hits the road here. I talked about in the previous video, the bullet points that go with each core value. This is where you can now lead to show people how serious you are about it. Every time you are having a leadership conversation, whether with a group or with an individual, you're congratulating, you're celebrating people related to the core values, and you're correcting and reprimanding people related to the core values. Not, hey, you did a good job today. It's, hey, you did a really good job representing this core value. Or, hey, you did a really good job with this thing that represents this core value. Or, hey, like you didn't communicate proactively on that when this expectation changed. Like that's the number one core value of my business for a reason. We got to make sure we're living by that. Or it's, hey, maybe I didn't describe it well enough. Do you understand that why this is part of our core values? It has to happen on a regular basis, especially if it's something new. So as your team now evolves with it, you're going to understand and have to come to realization that not everybody's going to be okay with it. Not everybody on your team's going to live by those expectations. The new core values have to guide the ship. So if someone doesn't buy in, it may be time to get rid of them. And that's just the unfortunate reality is if you're truly trying to change your culture, if you're truly trying to implement the change needed to create long-term success for your business, not everybody's going to be on board with that. So if they don't fit, you got to let them go. But now as you start to hire new employees, it's obviously they're coming into that ecosystem with the core values already in place. So you want to make sure that your interview process also revolves around the core values. So my process, I have a couple of hurdles to even get to the first interview, but that first in-person interview is really around situations, situational questions, analysis around the core value. So I have my 5 core values. Every core value I have a question or a kind of a hypothetical situation I present to the new candidate. Say, how would you handle this? What would you do if you see a bunch of carts laying out in the parking lot at the grocery store? Or tell me about a time that you were a part of a team, you were in charge. What did you do? How did you do it? What happened? What happened when one of the people on your team didn't deliver? I ask people like, what is your morning routine and what are you doing to self-educate? Things like, are you reading? Are you listening to podcasts? Are you watching YouTube videos? Are you taking courses? What is it? What are you doing to continually evolve? So I use situational questions and scenarios like that to make sure that this person has a general and fundamental relatability to the core values that I'm leading by. So obviously, once you're hiring into an established core value system, it becomes a lot easier because you're bringing people in that already relate. The hardest part is going to be getting them implemented originally. So talk about them regularly, talk about them often, promote based on core values, demote based on core values, celebrate based on core values, reprimand based on core values. The whole thing, it has to be talked about on a regular basis. But then here's the real trick. You have to represent them at all times. You don't get 1% leniency here. Because the minute you break, the minute you give in, the minute you adjust or you don't live up to your core values, you give everybody permission to also not live up to those. But then it becomes really difficult when you're trying to say and reprimand or correct somebody or educate somebody. They're like, well, you didn't do it that way. It makes a very uncomfortable conversation because you're now trying to hold them accountable to something that you yourself are not living up to. You have to be diligent. You have to be ultra aware and ultra prepared to make sure that you deliver on those every single time so that your team understands how serious you are about it so they start to take it just as serious. It's the only way you're going to get it to stick for the long run. And I promise you, having a culture based around strong core values will outlive anything else you're trying to do. It'll outlive pay structure, it'll outlive compensation, it'll outlive vacation time, it'll outlive technology you might buy or trucks or equipment or whatever it might be. You have to make sure that you have a culture that people want to come work at, and building a consistent lighthouse such as the core values is a great way to get great employees bought in for the long haul. Again, I'm Mike Claudio, owner of WinRate Consulting. Obviously, if you have questions on this, if you need some help, if you need something to bounce some ideas off of, hit me up on Instagram at WinRate Consulting. I'd love to engage with you and talk to you about what you're going through to hopefully help you. Obviously, I am a business coach, is what I do for a living, so I'm obviously have these conversations all the time, and I should be able to help you as well. Make sure you subscribe. Looking forward to hearing from you so that I can help you